very quickly, in 5 years, became the #1 oil company in the country outside of the government company. We went from merely producing 9,000 barrels a day to taking this company to 310,000 barrels a day now. We're the second largest producer of natural gas in the country, when people didn't even believe in the area that we were going to be looking for natural gas, that there was natural gas. So faith, hard work, and knowledge, as Ronald says. But our group is a lot more than Pacific Rubiales. Not as big with other companies as Pacific Rubiales, because Pacific is literally a monster in the oil industry. I mean, last year, EBITDA of Pacific Rubiales was $3 billion. So it's a growing company, and a company that's got a lot of future ahead of it, diversified, not only now into Colombia from that growth, but in Peru, now in Guyana, very luckily, Brazil, and Papua New Guinea, as far as Papua New Guinea, looking for an opportunity. The rest of the group of companies that are, where the main partners are Ronald, myself, and 2 other partners that couldn't be here because somebody's got to work on the other side. We started looking at opportunity, and today, as I was landing in Guyana, last time I was here was in the 1990s with the development of a mine called Omai that I was partly financing. I started feeling the same thing as Ronald was saying 5 years ago when we went to Colombia. I look around and I see opportunities everywhere. Our group is focused on infrastructure, natural resources, and agriculture. And this country has everything that you need on that. We know that on the mining side, which is one of our strongest area, we are the largest producer right now of gold in the country. We are the 4th largest producer of coal in the country. We produce over 2 million tons of coal. We produce lime and limestone for export, for the agricultural business and for the mining business, which is a very key ingredient of necessity. We produce over 1,000, we have a factory that produces 1,000 tons a day, and we're going to 3,000 tons a day, all of our for export business. We are in the electricity business. I see a tremendous opportunity here in electricity. And we are in the agricultural business. We have over 60,000 hectares of agricultural projects, 30,000 in the palm oil, in the rubber, and other plantation. We are in iron ore. And all of these opportunities have come in from a single idea that we came into a place like Colombia, where there was a need to grow a country. And from every opportunity that we saw that Pacific Rubiales needed as an element for growing as a company, we started seeing that the element that we're missing, the best way to fill them was by ourselves, like we did when we grew so much that ports became a challenge. And Pacific Rubiales, with the group of companies of ours, decided to go in and build our own port. And now we're building probably what will be the largest oil port in the Caribbean that's going to be capable to host 9 million barrels of oil as a storage facility and 1 million containers. And the port that started as an idea and people challenging that it wasn't needed or not, now it's fully packed, because as the country grows, people realize that it's an opportunity for you to grow in other sectors. So we see that very much over here. We believe that as the oil industry opens up in Guyana, Guyana is going to be needing all sorts of other services and other infrastructure and materials that are sitting over here and maybe not being taken advantage of. And as you grow all of this, this is going to be an area that's going to grow with the companies and the discoveries that are going to be coming over here. And we're looking forward to be probably the first one, if we can, with all the other great companies that are looking and exploring over here to be part of the growth of this country. And thank you very much.
All I can say is wow. I now understand why. I think you can turn it down a little bit now. I now understand why Suresh was so keen in getting this right this afternoon. Because I've sat at many of these sessions, I've absolutely been blown away with all that I've heard here. Not that low. All that I've heard here this afternoon. I think we're going to fall in love with a monster, Serafino. First time we'll go down that route, but I think I have my tape recorder and I can take these two voices and go and announce that they're my running mates for the next election. I'm home and dry for the next 5 years. But it's really wonderful to meet you and to hear, you know, you sit at these functions and you begin to pick up a sense of quiet confidence and humility and knowledge that comes across in this way because it's based on things that have been done and a real expertise of knowing what is possible. And if nothing else, that has made, as I said, February the 27th, a red letter day for Guyana. So thank you very much for making the trip. Pity you're flying back out, you know. I'm glad that I met you in person. I asked Suresh to give me some pen pictures. I didn't want to use them because, you know, they say that if, when you look at your passport pictures, they will probably tell you you're too ill to travel. So it's nice to see you in real life and to have that kind of confidence that you've brought to me and I guess to everybody else here this afternoon. So, question time.
To look at the various basins offshore and I think in one case onshore. What is the total amount of investment, the total jobs, and the revenues that would have been, or the investment in terms of goods and services procured in the country?
I'm sure my CFO can give you a much better answer. Would you be satisfied by?
Yes, I suppose it would be.
I can tell you that we have spent upwards of $290 million in the basin, and in terms of local employment, when we're drilling, obviously we're at maximum employment. Currently, I see our administrative manager, Mr. Kellowan, in the audience, and Kelly, you can help me. Am I correct in saying that we have about 80 employees currently? So we have about 85 employees currently when we're not drilling. And when we are drilling, that increases significantly into the 300s or higher. Let me preempt your next question to say that we don't believe that is enough.
Okay.
We believe that we need to engage in additional training, and this is why I substantially mentioned the partnership with the High Commission. I spoke at the Rotary of Georgetown, I think, yesterday, and this was a question that I answered. We, as a company, are committed to seeing that local. When like hundreds of millions of dollars, or $500 million at least, that is going to be spent here over 5 years drilling wells, it has to be spent in somewhere. And what I pointed out yesterday is long before we pump a single drop of oil, there's a tremendous opportunity in this sector for Guyanese companies and Guyanese people. But we've got to, with government, but more importantly with private sector, because risk is an inherent part of being able to access that profit portfolio. And therefore, we are not satisfied. Over the next months and year, you will see us partnering with the Minister of Labour, you will see us partnering with the Minister of Natural Resources and Environment in articulating exactly what we believe are the opportunities for Guyanese out there, so that the private sector can position themselves to partner with us. So I am by no means, although I am comfortable to rest on the absolute truth that CGX has by far outstripped any other oil exploration company in its employment of local content. I continue to be dissatisfied about our involvement of local content.
Can you say where the next well would be, or has that been determined at this stage? And I know about a year ago there was a forum in which an oil company present in Guyana to look at safety and environmental issues. I'm not sure what follow-up there would have been after that session, but could you say if perchance something is have the wherewithal and the capacity and the resources to take care of that unfortunate event should it have happened?
What unfortunate event do you refer to?
I'm talking about mishaps.
Okay.
For instance, one well that you were involved in had to be stopped prematurely because of safety concerns. I'm talking about if there is an event, are you prepared to partner with other agencies to contain? And
One of the things that I do, in addition to being the chair of CGX, is I teach. And you must forgive me, but I can't resist the opportunity to educate when there seems to be escalationary questions. Now, CGX has 100% environmental safety record in 15 years and 6 wells. You refer to a well being plugged and abandoned because of safety concerns. What you must follow that up with is that it was done in an internationally prescribed fashion, and it was done in a responsible fashion. One must not pander to the ability to attract headlines, my young friend. One must be able to understand that what is going on here is that we have a 100% safety record. What I want to add to you, though, to assure your readers, is that will continue. I personally am in charge of the committee that oversees health, safety, and the environment. And this is paramount, not only for CGX, but I might add, for our partners, Pacific Rubiales. Now, you refer to Jaguar, of course, and Jaguar was a partnership between YPF, Repsol, Tullow, and CGX. And I must say that when the partnership encountered, long before it became a remote danger to the environment, that and said, what is it that we need to do? In many instances in the past, other consortiums may have chosen to go far. But I can tell you, CGX was the first company that registered its vote in that consortium to say, no, the environment and the risk to it is paramount. So I want to assure you and to assure your readership and all Guyanese that the environment is the most important aspect. And Ronald, I see you nodding here. We are committed to the environment.
Yeah, probably the most important thing in an oil company is to do things environmentally right and also with a social responsibility. In our board, there's nothing more important than that. If you are not going to be safe, please don't do it. We'll be ready to really gain an oil well if that happens, but you cannot risk the environment of the country.
When you have an oil spill, it simply doesn't stop at the borders of the licenses that we own. It flows and it affects everyone. So all of us, all of the companies operating in the basin have a responsibility. And insofar as we did that, we will continue to do that, because all of the companies operating in this basin, I would hazard, have similar concerns over the environment. So whenever this industry is presented with the opportunity to collaborate, we will. The collaboration wasn't based on an inability of CGX to do it on its own, but surely many more hands do a better job. To answer your first question, we are bound by certain rules of disclosure that we couldn't tell you the longitude and latitude of where our next well will be. But when we start drilling, Stavrik News will be one of those that we engage very fully.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ronald. CGX at this moment have 3 concessions and have some obligations that we will have to meet. We will start drilling as soon as possible. We have looked into the details of the different blocks, the Annex block, the Quarantine, the Berenice, and those are, excellent prospects. We have excellent prospects. Really, we understand very well this basin. In the past, in our life, I was president of PDVSA Oil and Gas. We were drilling in Plataforma del Tana, and we hit 5 successful wells out of 7. So we understand this basin very well. What we have seen in the seismic is very interesting, but still we have to look for some more details. I'm sure that this new association between CGX and Pacific will bring oil soon to Guyana.
I simply endorse.
You spoke of a 30% ownership at Pacific in CGX currently, but with the acquisition of more shares, could you say what that has gone up to now? Could you say who are some of the other companies that may have been approached, engaged in looking for a partner? And could you also say, sir, there's talk of opportunities, but can you say what is there in place to safeguard against exploitation?
So to begin with your last question first, because it's the most difficult one to answer. What is there to safeguard against exploitation? I would suspect that we start with the laws of Guyana, but we move beyond that to the substantive 15-year reputation of CGX and the fact that that reputation and the principle has not changed. I have often suggested that the laws of a country simply provide guidelines within which companies operate. But if you look at the track record of CGX, exploitation has never been a word that is associated with us, and it's not about to be. I suppose what one does is I encourage our public to continue to be our worst critics as we move forward. Now, in terms of which companies were approached, of course, it's very difficult for me to address that. I can tell you that this partnership was not as a result of us soliciting multiple partners. This partnership was a deliberate, directed, carefully thought out partnership that we engaged in. Because of the reasons that may have mentioned before when you weren't here, Pacific not only has the financial wherewithal, as a matter of fact, Pacific's financial engagement in CGX is simply an open door with which the partnership can begin. The financial capacity of CGX now, with this partnership on its own, is significant. And I would encourage you to go out and buy our stock. So it is not as if CGX was a poor partner that partnered with, with Pacific in order to be bailed out. It was a deliberate partnership. The other question, remind me.
Shares.
The shares. It depends on how you do the math. You have, of course, in front of you, the press release that we have put forward, but it is about 48%. See, Pacific Rubiales, as of today, have gone up to about 48% ownership of CGX. But it depends on how you do the math. You must be able to apply the mathematics within the context that is applied. So, does that answer your question? Would you like me to elaborate on anything else?
Right, thank you. I guess he comes from a mining background, so he's very much at home with all that has gone on this afternoon. So I'm just going to ask for a few closing remarks from the Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Samanis.
Here this afternoon, I want to say welcome to the new group, Pacific Orialis. I'm not sure I got the word right. I'd like to Rubialis. I'd like to see it written and get to know it better maybe. But I want to welcome them, and I want to thank them and my old friends from CG in the 1990s for keeping the faith and keeping going. I think that for us Guyanese, there are many lessons in this venture of CGX to search for oil off the Guyana coast. We must commend their perseverance and persistence. We must note also to the large amount of knowledge and experience and expertise that one takes to this job of searching for oil, and I say searching for a needle that may be in the haystack. It's the challenge that faces all persons who are prospecting for minerals or for oil. I do hope and I want to believe too that we're going to find oil here in Guyana. We Guyanese too should take note of the large amounts of money that are required. I think CGX has said there that over the years they would have spent upwards of $290 million so far. I recall that when the search was made by CGX on the onshore in the quarantine area, they did seek local partners. It looked quite hot, as I remember. Their indicators looked quite good, but I think Mr. Kelly was it. He always talks about the probabilities, still only 30% or whatever it is. And I think, if I remember the news reports accurately, maybe Guyanese had put some $800 million Guyana dollars into that venture, and it was not a success. It was not a success, no oil was found. But as I learned to, you gain information which hopefully would raise your possibilities the next time you make a venture. To the extent that we're concerned about exploitation, we should use that concern to motivate us to save and invest our money. And there are a number of things that have to follow. One, if there's success, we share in it. But another thing that happens is that we get the experience of doing things. We get that going forward. And hopefully we become more knowledgeable. Because we live in a world, we of less than 1 million, and with a GDP of, we're proud of the GDP. The PCV government is proud of the increase that it has brought in GDP, now up to about $2.5 billion. But this is extremely small in the world. We would need partnerships. We would need to work with other people. And we need to gain experience so that when we work with other people, our sights are fairly well set. We can more readily recognize exploitation and the possibilities of exploitation, and we can maybe more easily recognize what is possible in the world, what is usual, and so on. A number of things come to my mind on these issues of partnership. There are many of our people here. All of us speak about Guyana being a bridgehead to the South America, to Brazil. But the same person that I may be speaking in that direction with, even many in the private sector, maybe I would say maybe more so people in the private sector evening that. And if we walk down Regent Street or Robb Street and they see a number of Brazilian places, they start to worry about the Brazilians taking us over. If we're going to be partnering with the world, and we have to partner with the world, where we have only 1 million people, less than 1 million people, we have to learn to develop relationships with other people. And we'll have to gain the experience. So the issue, the question about exploitation is very natural, but what it should motivate is that we would save even out of the little that we have and invest ourselves, and that we should spend more time maybe into reading about and learning about how partnerships are working all around the world at different levels. So I want to welcome that question, but I want to put back that question calls for action. If that question is earnest, if it was raised earnestly, then that person should be taking action. So partnership is important for us Guyanese. We have to learn how to live easily and work with other people. We have to learn more about the world so we could more readily work with people from other parts of the world. Recently, I visited in countries where there has been significant amount of oil, lots of oil found in the United Arab Emirates, in particular Abu Dhabi and Dubai next door. And it's quite interesting that whilst up to maybe the 1960s, those Gulf states may have been known more for their people diving to bring up oysters in which there may be pearls. They now have, on the basis of their oil wealth, they have a GDP, per capita GDP of $100,000 per person per year. That compares with maybe with the US, where they say they work for it more, of about 45,000 or something like that. And the UAE is interesting, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, because for them to get the better quality of life that their income has afforded them, they're in a situation where the native Emiratis are 20% of the population on the ground, and some 80% are guest workers, investors, managers, and so on. So if we do find lots of oil in Guyana, maybe we have to get even better than that, because if we want the better life, all the things like the people in the United Arab Emirates have, we may have to contemplate the same sort of thing. So it's partnership and being able to live well in harmony with all others. We know our history, our past has told us something, it has given us certain lessons. We must learn to discriminate, but that means we have to learn. And so we're able to discriminate. We have to make some achievements of our own so people become more respectful of us, that will be pulled over our eyes, and that sort of thing. But this is not, I see my friend Vic moving here, this is not a time for me to speak to that, even though he did suggest that maybe I should look to recruit the two gentlemen here and maybe get them on my, along with my platform help us. But I know they say, and I agree with them, they would stay out of the politics and focus on the production side. And that may give me a little bit, like a few more years in business anyhow. So maybe I may not want them competing with me. They look very capable in the business they've been in. And I know they also have a very experienced and successful politician with them anyhow. So maybe I don't want to invite them into the political arena in Guyana, but welcome them into the business arena, and let's get out there, find the oil, and let the finding of oil be a boon to Guyanese and not, I don't want to use this bad word, not a curse, as has been known in the literature that natural of money, like people who win sweepstakes and so on, that sometimes you turn out even worse after you've had a big sum of money come because you're not capable to manage that situation. Welcome. I look forward to success.